The contraction hit me like a truck, making me double over the kitchen counter. Maria kept talking about how to make a proper breakfast, her voice a dull hum through the pain. I watched my mother-in-law carefully arrange her tea set, not even glancing at me. "Melissa, dear, you really should have planned better," she said. "Patrick needs his protein shake before work, and here you are, making a scene." She clicked her tongue, the sound sharp in my head. I gripped the counter, my knuckles turning white. "Patrick," I gasped, "I think the baby's coming." My husband didn't look up from his phone. "Mom's right. You've been slacking lately." Another contraction hit, stronger this time, and I couldn't hold back a cry. I grabbed my phone, 4 minutes between contractions. This was real. "Maria, please," I begged. "I need to get to the hospital." She calmly sipped her tea. When I had Patrick, I finished cooking for a whole dinner party before going to the hospital. Women these days are so dramatic. The room spun. My hands shook as I reached for my phone, but it slipped and crashed to the floor. Patrick finally looked up, frowning. "Can you keep it down? I'm trying to read something important." Then I felt it, a warm gush of liquid running down my legs. Maria's eyes widened in horror as she stared at the puddle forming beneath me. "You're ruining my imported tiles," she shrieked, jumping up. I stumbled toward the door, my vision blurring. The pain was unbearable, but something else was growing inside me. Something cold. Something sharp. I looked at Patrick, still focused on his phone. I looked at Maria, already on her hands and knees scrubbing the floor. And something in me snapped. "I'll drive myself," I said, grabbing my hospital bag. Patrick barely glanced up. "Don't forget to pick up my dry cleaning on your way back." I made it to my car, every step agony, both physical and emotional. As I pulled out of the driveway, I saw Maria through the window, scrubbing furiously. That was the moment. The exact moment I decided they would both pay for this. I didn't know how yet, but as my baby fought to enter this world, I made a promise to both of us. This would be the last time they treated us like we were nothing. Another contraction hit as I turned onto the main road, but this time, I didn't fear the pain. I welcomed it. It fueled something new inside me, something that would change everything. For days after bringing Olivia home, I sat in the living room, cradling her in my arms while Maria rearranged my furniture again. The sound of wood scraping against the floor made Olivia stir, but Maria didn't stop. She kept pushing the armchair, determined. "This space needs proper arrangement," she said, wiping sweat from her brow. "No grandchild of mine will grow up in a chaotic home." The front door opened, and Patrick walked in, dropping his briefcase by the entrance. "Mom, I thought you'd be home by now." "I'm helping your wife bring some order to this place," Maria said, eyeing the bookshelf. "Look at these novels, so dusty. When I was a new mother." I stood up carefully, holding Olivia close. "We were just about to feed and rest," I interrupted. Patrick checked his watch. "Before you do that, could you iron my shirts for tomorrow?" "Mom's right, this place is a mess." I looked around at the spotless living room, then down at my tiny daughter, not even a week old. That familiar pressure built in my chest. But this time, it wasn't tears. "Your shirts are in our bedroom," I said quietly. "Right where you left them." "On my side of the bed." Maria clicked her tongue. "Really, Melissa, this attitude. I had a C-section 4 days ago." The words hung in the air. Patrick shifted uncomfortably, but Maria waved her hand dismissively. "When I had my operation, you had your gallbladder removed. 30 years ago." I cut in, my voice calm even as my heart pounded. "I had my stomach cut open to bring your grandchild into this world. After driving myself to the hospital." Patrick's phone chimed. He pulled it out, already distracted. "Mom, can you help Melissa with the shirts? I have a call." As he walked away, Maria stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You're being ungrateful. We're only trying to keep up the standards you agreed to when you married into this family." Olivia fussed in my arms. I held her tighter, breathing in her soft, newborn scent. And in that moment, something inside me became crystal clear, sharp as a knife. "You're right, Maria," I said. I did agree to certain standards. I walked toward the stairs, each step slow and steady. I think it's time I started making my own rules. What's that supposed to mean? Maria's voice had that sharp, controlled anger I knew too well. I stopped on the third step and turned to look at her. It means I'm going to take care of my daughter now. And tomorrow we're going to talk about some changes around here. For a moment, just a second, I saw something new in Maria's eyes.
Fear.
The bank statement shook in my hands as I stared at the list of transfers. $8,000 last month. $10,000 the month before. Every payment sent to Maria Adams' personal account. The morning light reflected off my wedding ring as I scrolled through Patrick's banking app. He had left his phone unlocked, carelessly, like everything else. Every transaction felt like another stab in the back. Olivia's soft coos from her bassinet pulled me out of my thoughts. 3 weeks of motherhood, and I had already learned how to survive on autopilot. Changing diapers while uncovering my husband's lies. The front door opened, and Patrick's footsteps echoed through the house. "Honey, Mom's coming over to help with dinner," he called out. He walked into the room, loosening his tie. "She thinks you need cooking lessons." I held up the phone, the screen facing him. "Want to explain these transfers?" His face didn't show guilt. Just annoyance. "You went through my phones? You left it unlocked. Now answer the question." He shrugged. "Mom needed some help with expenses. $230,000 in 3 months. I pulled the phone back. "While I'm buying cheap diapers because you said we needed to budget." "She's redecorating her sitting room," he said, his voice turning cold. "And what's wrong with generic diapers? You're becoming as high maintenance as..." "As what?" I cut in. "As your mother's?" I let out a sharp laugh, loud enough to make Olivia stir. The same woman who spent more on curtains last month than we did on our daughter's entire nursery. Patrick's jaw clenched. "You don't understand. Mom has certain standards." I stood up, feeling the pull of my C-section scar. Standards that just happened to cost exactly what we saved for Olivia's college fund. Something flickered in Patrick's eyes. Fear, quickly hidden by anger. "Does your father know about these transfers?" I asked. "Leave Dad out of this," Patrick snapped. "Mom's handling the finances while he focuses on retirement." "Really?" I stepped toward the door, phone still in hand. "Maybe I should call Steven and ask." Patrick grabbed my wrist, hard. I gasped at the pressure. "Don't you dare," he growled. And in that moment, looking into my husband's eyes, I knew. At that moment, I saw Patrick for who he really was, his mother's son. A man who had learned manipulation from her, who would lie and hide the truth just to keep their perfect little world intact. "Let go." Each word carried the weight of all the silent moments I had endured. He let go of my wrist and stepped back. "You're being hysterical. This is why Mom says you're not ready for." "For what?" I picked up Olivia, holding her close. "For the truth? About what you and Maria are really doing with your father's money." The color drained from his face. "How did you?" "I didn't," I said, smiling coldly as realization hit him. "But now I do." Christina slammed her coffee mug down, making the table shake. "You need to leave, Melissa."
Now.
I rocked Olivia gently, trying to keep her asleep, while searching my friend's face. "It's not that simple." "Like hell it isn't." She pushed her tablet across the table. "Look what I found when I searched Maria's name." The screen showed court records from 17 years ago, a sealed case for financial fraud. Below that were 3 businesses that had mysteriously gone bankrupt. Maria Adam was listed as their financial advisor. "There's more," Christina said, her voice lowering. "Steven's company is being audited. The timing of those money transfers matches exactly when the investigation started." My mouth went dry. They were hiding money. Olivia stirred in my arms. I held her closer, breathing in her soft newborn scent, trying to steady myself. The front door opened. Then came the sharp click of Maria's heels against the hardwood floor. Christina quickly grabbed her tablet, but not before Maria stepped into the doorway. Her practiced smile faltered for just a second when she saw my friend. "I wasn't aware we had company," she said, her eyes flickering toward the tablet. "What are you ladies discussing?" "Bankruptcy law," I said, meeting her gaze. It's interesting how some people hide money during audits. The color drained from Maria's face, but her smile didn't fade. Such a depressing topic for new mothers. Patrick tells me you've been emotional lately. Maybe even struggling with postpartum issues. Christina stood up, gathering her things. Actually, we were just discussing Melissa's options. Options? Maria's voice was sharp now. For protecting herself, Christina said, squeezing my shoulder before leaving. Maria stayed in the doorway, tapping her manicured fingers against the frame. You know, dear, she said, her voice dripping with fake concern, mothers who suffer from postpartum depression often lose custody of their children, especially when they make wild accusations about respected family members. The threat hung between us. I thought about the documents Christina had shown me, about Patrick's lies, about Stephen, who had no idea what was happening, and about my daughter, sleeping peacefully against my chest. You're right, Maria, I said, standing carefully while cradling Olivia. I should rest. Doctor's orders. Maria nodded, satisfied. I'll tell Patrick you're unwell. Maybe he should stay at our house tonight. I waited until I heard Maria's heels click down the hall before pulling out my phone. 3 quick texts. One to my lawyer. One to Stephen's office, asking for an urgent meeting. One to Christina. Start the plan tonight. Her reply came instantly. Already on it. Pack light. Delete this message. I erased the conversation and looked down at Olivia, feeling the weight of what was coming. Maria thought this was just another game. But she had forgotten one thing. When a mother protects her child, she doesn't play games. She plays to win. The locksmith's van pulled away just as Patrick's car turned onto our street. I stood by the living room window, my heart pounding. Olivia slept peacefully in her carrier beside me. Patrick tried his key once, then twice, then a third time. Finally, he rang the doorbell. Then came the pounding. Melissa, open the door. His voice was sharp, angry. What the hell is this? I pressed the intercom button. Your clothes are in bags on the porch. Take them to your mother's. You changed the locks? Have you lost your mind? More pounding. Let me in. This is my house too. I kept my voice calm. Actually, it's my house. Check the deed. A gift from my parents, remember? The one you and Maria tried to get me to put in your name for tax purposes. His phone call to Maria was immediate. Predictable. Within 15 minutes, her car screeched into the driveway. Melissa Adam. Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. Open this door right now, or I'm calling the police. Go ahead. I shifted Olivia to my shoulder as she stirred. I'm sure they'd love to see the financial records I found, especially with that audit coming up. Silence. Then Maria's urgent whispers to Patrick. My phone buzzed. A text from Christina. Stephen's secretary confirmed your meeting for tomorrow. Documents ready. The pounding started again, but Patrick's voice had changed. The anger was gone. Now he sounded desperate. Melissa, please. You don't understand what you're doing. Mom's just trying to protect the family. No, I said, my voice steady. She's trying to protect herself. And you're helping her steal from your own father. Through the door, I heard Maria's sharp gasp. You spiteful littles. I have copies of everything. I cut her off. The transfers. The fake companies. All of it. And it's in very safe places. Silence. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're both going to leave.
Now.
Tomorrow, I'm meeting with Stephen. You wouldn't dare, Maria hissed. Try me. I looked down at Olivia, drawing strength from her peaceful face. I'm done being the quiet, obedient daughter-in-law, I said. You taught me well, Maria. I smiled. Family protects family. I'm protecting my family. Patrick's last attempt was barely a whisper. She's my daughter too. Then prove it, I said. Tell your father the truth, or I will. Through the window, I watched as Maria grabbed Patrick's arm, practically dragging him to the car. Their angry voices carried across the lawn as they sped away. I sank to the floor, holding Olivia close. My hands were shaking, but my resolve had never been stronger. The house keys felt heavy in my pocket. New keys. New locks. New boundaries. Tomorrow would bring more battles, but for tonight, we were safe. And sometimes that was enough to start with. Stephen's office felt smaller than I remembered. Or maybe it was just the weight of Maria and Patrick standing behind me, their silence thick with barely contained anger. Olivia slept peacefully in her carrier, unaware of the storm about to hit. Stephen's voice cracked as he studied the documents on his desk. Financial irregularities. He looked up, his face pale. Maria, what is this? Maria reached for the papers, her manicured nails perfectly polished. Darling, these have clearly been altered. Melissa is having emotional problems. The transfers are real, I said, pulling out my phone. I held up Patrick's banking app. Patrick has been moving company money into personal accounts. Your money, Stephen. Ask him where it's going. Patrick stepped forward. Dad, I can explain. Explain what? Stephen's face seemed to age 12 years in 10 minutes. That you and your mother have been stealing from me? From our employees' pension fund? Maria's perfect mask finally cracked. We were protecting you. The audit would have. Would have what? Stephen slammed his fist on the desk. Found out that my own wife and son were embezzling? The office door burst open. A man in a dark suit entered, followed by two others. Mr. Adam, he said. I'm Ryan Gosling, FBI. We need to discuss some concerning transactions. Maria let out a scream of rage and lunged at me. You vindictive little. I barely had time to shield Olivia before Maria's hands wrapped around my throat. The carrier tipped over, Olivia's cries cutting through the chaos. Agents grabbed Maria, pulling her away as she shrieked. You ruined everything. She turned to Patrick. Tell them what she's done. But Patrick didn't move. He just stood there, frozen, watching as agents handcuffed his mother. His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw real emotion there. Not anger, not arrogance, just fear. Pure, devastating fear. Dad, Patrick whispered. Please. Stephen wouldn't look at him. He turned to Ryan Gosling. My wife and son have full access to all company accounts. I'll cooperate fully with your investigation. As Maria was led away, still screaming, she played her final card. Stephen, if I go down, everyone will find out about Patrick's mistake. About what really happened to that girl in college. The room went silent. Olivia whimpered softly in my arms. Patrick's face turned ghostly pale. Stephen finally turned to look at his son. What girl, Patrick? I held Olivia close, feeling her tiny heartbeat racing against mine. This didn't feel like victory. It felt like destruction. I had wanted justice, but watching this family fall apart, seeing the pain in Stephen's eyes, it felt empty. Maria's laugh echoed down the hallway. Still think you've won, Melissa? You've destroyed this family. Hope you're proud of yourself. The worst part? She might be right. I had pulled the trigger, but the bullet had torn through all of us. And now, in the wreckage of what I had done, I had to find a way forward. For Olivia. For myself. For whatever was left of justice in this mess. The prison visiting room smelled like cheap disinfectant and hopelessness. Maria sat across from me, her orange jumpsuit a shocking contrast to her perfect makeup. For months behind bars hadn't dulled the sharpness in her eyes. Come to gloat? She asked, folding her hands neatly on the table. I came because Patrick finally told me about Joan Allen. The name hit like lightning. For a split second, Maria's mask cracked. Joan, the girl from Patrick's college days. The one who disappeared. You don't know what you're talking about, she said, her voice tight. I placed a manila envelope on the table. Her parents never stopped looking. They hired private investigators, followed every lead. And one of them found something interesting. I slid the envelope closer. Security footage. From the night Joan vanished. A car. Your car, Maria. Her laugh was cold. Is that why you're here? To threaten me with old stories? I met her stare. I'm here because I finally understand. Patrick didn't just help you steal money. You helped him cover up something worse. That's how you controlled him all these years. Maria leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. My son made a mistake. I protected him. That's what mothers do. No, I said, leaning in too. That's what monsters do. You didn't just cover for him, you used it. You owned him. You made sure he stayed under your control, even if it meant stealing from his own father. Maria's expression hardened. Everything I did was for her. For yourself, I interrupted. I stood, pressing my hands against the cold metal table. The FBI has the footage now. And Patrick? He's talking. The color drained from her face. He wouldn't dare. He already has, I said. Turns out, when you threatened to expose his secret to get more money last month, he recorded the conversation. I tilted my head. Self-preservation. You taught him well. Maria lunged across the table, but the guards were faster. They grabbed her as she screamed. He's my son. I own him. I gathered my things, watching her struggle. Not anymore. I turned to leave, then paused at the door. You know the difference between us, Maria? I protect my child by teaching her to be better. You destroyed yours by making him just like you. Maria's screams echoed down the hallway, but they didn't reach me anymore. Outside, Christina waited in her car. Olivia was sleeping peacefully in the back seat. How did it go? She asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I glanced in the side mirror, watching the prison fade into the distance. I thought of Patrick, sitting in his own cell, finally facing what he had done. Of Stephen, working to rebuild his company the right way. Of Maria, trapped in the world she had created, paying the price for her choices. It went exactly as it needed to, I said. I reached back to touch Olivia's tiny hand. Sometimes justice isn't about winning. It's about breaking the cycle. Christina nodded, understanding in her eyes. Ready to go home? Yes, I said, feeling lighter than I had in years. We were. The divorce papers sat on my lawyer's desk, neatly signed. Their crisp edges marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Through the office window, I watched Stephen playing with Olivia in the courtyard below. His silver hair caught the sunlight as he bounced her gently, making her giggle. The settlement is generous, my lawyer said, organizing the documents. Full custody, the house, and Mr. Adams Sr.'s offer to support Olivia's future. I nodded, my mind drifting to Maria's upcoming trial and Patrick's plea deal. The headlines had been brutal. Mother's fraud scheme leads to murder investigation. Joan Allen's parents would finally have answers, though not the ones they had hoped for. A knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. Christina stepped in, holding an envelope. This came to the house. Stephen brought it. Inside was a single key and a handwritten note. I recognized Maria's perfect handwriting instantly. Safety deposit box 250. Some truths should stay buried. Your choice now. My hands shook as I folded the note. More evidence. More secrets. The power to hide everything, or to expose it all, lay in that tiny key. What are you going to do? Christina asked softly. I looked back out the window. Stephen lifted Olivia high into the air, her laughter floating up through the glass. He had lost everything, his wife, his son, his company's reputation. And yet, here he was, finding joy in a simple moment with his granddaughter. I placed the key on my lawyer's desk. Contact Joan Allen's parents, I said. They deserve to know everything, even if it hurts Stephen, especially because of that. I gathered my things, the weight of the decision settling in my chest. Real healing can't begin until all the poison is drawn out. In the courtyard, Stephen looked up and waved. I waved back, thinking of Maria in her cell, of Patrick finally facing his crimes, of all their carefully built lies turning to dust. They thought revenge would taste like victory, but it tasted like truth. Bitter.
Clean. Necessary.
Ready? Christina asked, holding the door open. I took one last deep breath. Let's go. I took one last look at the key on the desk. It held power, the power to hurt, to hide, to control. Maria's final test, even from behind bars. But I wasn't her. I wasn't Patrick. And Olivia wouldn't grow up surrounded by buried secrets. I turned away from the key and toward my daughter's laughter.
Yes, I said.
We're ready. Some might call it revenge, watching Maria's world fall apart. But as I stepped into the sunlight, toward Stephen, toward Olivia, toward whatever future lay ahead, I knew the truth. It wasn't revenge. It was freedom.